Hi, welcome back. So in this tutorial, we're going to cover all what you need to know in order to master code writing skills using the Python programming language. In this tutorial, as we have mentioned, is just an appendix to the course prediction from the start to the end, which is an episode series of the Big Bang of Data Science digital book. For more information, you may want to visit our website, diamondsfee.com. Now, in this tutorial, I will be using the Colab product from Google Research. And in a nutshell, Colab or Collaboratory allows us to write and execute Python on our browser with zero configuration required. Also, we can access to GPUs free of charge, which is something we may want to do if we are dealing with a large computational power required, such as matrix multiplication. And finally, is also easy to share. For more information, you may want to visit the official website. Welcome to Collaboratory. If you prefer, of course, to install Python environment on your local machine, you may want to do that. It's fine, and just follow the tutorial along. But I'm not going to cover how you're going to install Python environment on your local machine. You may want to check some other reference. Now, basically, in the quick introduction, we're going to check first of all the setup environment. In Google Colab, actually, basically, once you start a new node, you access to a Debian-based Linux server. So whatever command you write on Linux server, you will be able to write it down here on this session in a form of a Jupyter notebook, if you are familiar with that. So basically, if I tab on the current active cell, you could have two options as to write a new cell as a code or as a text. So I'm going to create a new code cell and just to check out the current installed version of Python in this particular session. If you run just Python dash version, you will get the current installed version, which is 3.916. Now, if you visit a Python website here and check out all the released current stable version of Python up to the date of this record, the latest version of Python is 3.11. So I prefer to deal with the latest update version of Python to avoid any confusion, if especially I am dealing with external modules or libraries that I might import and they need to be or they relies on the latest version of Python. So to do that, basically, first of all, we're going to check something called the update alternative or the config Python on this machine. It's telling me there are no alternative for Python are installed so far. So what we want to do, we want to install Python as simple as follows. First of all, let's git update the current session of Debian Linux server, and then we ask to install 3.11 as we have just checked the current version. So if you click that, the command will start first of all to get the update on the current Linux server and then start installing 3.11 updated. So he said it's already installed and the information are in there. If we check once again after we have just installed the current latest version 3.11, we will be surprised to see that still this session pointing to the previous actually interpreter 3.9 of Python. What we want basically to do, we want to ask this session to point to the latest one that we have just installed. To do that, we're gonna ask this command sudo update alternative dash install. This is the current folder of the interpreter Python 3, and I'm just asking it to create or to point to the 3.11 and make it as priority of 1. If you run this, pointing out have been done. If we want now to ask this session to point to this current version 3.11, we can write sudo update again alternatives config Python 3. If we click, we will get all the available actually interpreters are installed based on their priority. So what we want actually, we wanted to point to this. If we enter here 1 and just enter, you will see that the alternative using this current selection has been done. So if we create a new code cell and just write once again Python, you will get a 3.11.2, and that's exactly what we wanted. Before we actually start the informal introduction to Python, maybe we want to ask two important questions. Why do we need this skill? Why we have to bother to learn about coding or programming? As we have said in the previous track from technical or logical perspective. But if you do much of work on computations, eventually you find yourself that there is some task you would like actually to automate. And for example, say in this course prediction from the start to the end, we are learning all the fundamental logical and mathematical information to make a good prediction. However, learning the equation is one matter, but actually applying that on real data is another. So when the size of the data explodes exponentially, it becomes obviously impossible to execute the task manually. That's why we need computer power or machine power to do the job for us. This is the basic need of learning the skill of programming or coding your own. And the question is, why Python in particular? As I have mentioned earlier, it doesn't really matter the choice of the programming language that you would like to go for, but perhaps Python has certain features or criteria that make it easy for me to be my choice. Python is simple to use, but it is actually a real programming language. It offers much more structure and support for large programs than the shell scripts or the batch file can offer. And also, on the other hand, Python offers us much more error checking than the C programming language. And being a very high level language, it has a high level data type built in, such as flexible arrays, dictionaries. Also, Python allows us to split our program into modules that can be actually reused in other Python programs. And it comes with a large collection of standard modules that can be used as the basis for our programs. Some of which, for example, file libraries for input and output, system calls, sockets, even interfaces, and graphical user interface toolkit. So I hope this quick introduction and environment setup is quite clear to you. Now, what we want to do actually, we're going to look at the first outline of this appendix, and that is to discuss informal introduction to Python through two important sublines. The first one, the pillars of Python. The second one, the first step to code. Let's go ahead and explore that. I'll see you then.